What if I told you that you could get the experience of a faster computer, almost like more FPS, just by upgrading your monitor? Well, in the NVIDIA suite at CES 2026, that's basically what they're showing. And yet, nobody seems to be talking about it. Like, where is everybody? Which I guess is their loss, because this is one of the new GSYNC Pulsar displays. They're available on store shelves already, and with its crazy backlight strobing technology, it aims to give you the effective motion clarity, the smoothness of a PC and monitor that's 4 times higher than the FPS your computer can actually generate. Say your computer renders a game at 150 FPS, like we've got in Overwatch 2 here. This monitor aims to take those 150 frames and give you the motion clarity as if you had 600 frames. Let me show you what it actually looks like. Just running around in the training grounds, it's immediately apparent how much clearer Pulsar makes the gameplay, even at only 150 FPS. I mean, if I grab this other computer over here that's got it turned off, I mean, it doesn't look bad. Don't get me wrong, 150 FPS is nothing to gawk at. That's still a lot of frames, but it's nowhere near as crisp and clear as this. I swear this actually looks better than my 480 Hz OLED, which is kind of embarrassing. But let's try to take a closer look at what that effect actually looks like. Because to me, it looks fantastic, but to you, it just looks like a dude sitting there playing Overwatch. But it gets even better, because these are actually 360 Hz IPS LCD panels. You times that by 4, and you've got a perceived motion clarity of over 1,000 Hertz. It's kind of crazy. We can get a much better look with NVIDIA's LDAP program, which is usually used for testing like monitor input latency, but right now we can use it to test our readability. And this is where you can really see the difference. I've got everything dropped down to around 90 Hertz because we don't have a great setup for capturing it here at the show floor, but even just looking at this, I almost can't even read the text at the bottom here, but looking at the display with Pulsar on, it's like I'm looking at a piece of paper that's somehow moving. That's how clear it is. I mean, sure, if we bump up the refresh rate to 360 Hertz, the difference is not nearly as profound with Pulsar off versus Pulsar on, but still, it's definitely a huge visible difference. And in the freeze frame you can see here, it's even more obvious.
But Jake, this isn't new. NVIDIA made these claims years ago when ULMB2 or ultra-low motion blur launched.
Sure. But ULMB only worked at fixed frame rates. This works with GSYNC variable refresh rate from 75 Hertz all the way up to 360. And in the future, they might drop it down as low as 48. But we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. Let's take a look at the monitor. This is the ROG Strix Pulsar XG27 AQN-GV. It's a 27-inch 1440p IPS LCD panel with a 360 Hz native refresh rate. They're advertising a 90% DCI P3 color space coverage and a delta E of less than 2. And it works either over DisplayPort 1.4 with DisplayStream compression or with either of the HDMI 2.1 ports. And it even has a couple Type A ports so you can connect your peripherals for a little bit cleaner cable management. Oh, and it's even got a headphone jack. Look at that. Wow. Whoa. What the fuck did we do to this thing? Whoopsies, I broke it. And it's got pan, tilt, up, down, rotation both ways, all the standard stuff you would come to expect from a more premium model. But how does it even work? Well, first, we're at the Ugreen booth at CES 2026, and they sponsored this portion of today's video to check out their freshly announced IDX NAS lineup. These new AI-powered NAS units should be the perfect solution for that ever-growing mess of files, with 3 different models, all featuring 6 storage bays for up to a massive 196 terabytes of local storage, which you can access quickly with dual 10 gigabit networking right there and 40 gigabit Thunderbolt, dual M.2 slots for SSD caching on every model. They even have Oculink on the flagship IDX 611 Pro. You see that right there? You can plug an external GPU into this NAS. By using local AI models, not by sending your data to who knows where, the IDX AI NAS can make managing your files way easier with a universal search that you can just ask questions in natural language. See, like cloud. Oh, here's some music on your NAS. Here's some files about clouds. There's even photos of clouds. Or if AI chat is more your speed, their local running Julia AI chat allows you to summarize file contents, transform voice recordings into structured mind maps, and even easily label and sort your photos. And again, that's without having to worry about your privacy. Even the voice memos feature, which can transcribe your voice and give you like a script of the recording with all the people, that's all running locally and privately on the NAS itself, so you don't have to worry. And it doesn't stop there. Ugreen's ecosystem is continuing to grow with their new IP cameras, which have this crazy cross-camera awareness feature. Hey, Julia.
Hi.
So if one camera picks up, say, A baby is crying.
A baby is crying.
The other ones can let you know that's happening. Stop crying, baby. And of course, they're always improving their charging lineup. Like with this new 8-port Nexode Pro 300-watt charger. Look at that. 6 USB-C on the front, and they even got Type A and a DC jack on the side. So why not power up your life at the link in the description where you can reserve your Ugreen NAS IDX pre-order for just $30 and save up to $1,050 off the MSRP when they start shipping in Q2 of this year. Hi. Hi. Sorry for the bamboozle. At its core, Pulsar is kind of like an addition to ULMB. It's still ULMB, but like ULMB 2+. When any monitor changes what it's displaying, even though it may be happening 60, 100, 200 times per second, it's important to note that the pixels don't update instantaneously. There's a small delay, and that can result in ghosting or smearing to your image. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can demo this yourself on your computer right now. Just grab one of the windows on your desktop and move it around really fast. That smearing, that's the ghosting we're talking about. ULMB and Pulsar avoid this by turning your display's backlight off while the pixels are changing, effectively hiding the ghosting. To be specific, they shut it off for around 75% of the time the frame is displayed. And at least to our eyes, that results in a much clearer image. The problem with ULMB is that it only works at fixed refresh rates, since the backlight and the pixels need to refresh and strobe in sync. If they fall out of sync or the backlight strobing rate changes, to the human eye, it can cause noticeable flickering. Pulsar partially solves this problem by strobing the backlight extra times when it needs to compensate for the flicker. It took a lot of tuning and apparently years of development, but even down below the recommended 90 Hz minimum that shouldn't have flickering for anyone, I can't even detect flickering at like 75 Hz, and supposedly for enthusiasts they're going to make it go down even as low as 48 Hz, but that's not confirmed nor like a recommended supported use case, so your mileage may vary. You might be sensitive to flickering and not even know it. It's really hard to capture on camera without a slider. NVIDIA even used like a high-speed camera and a robot arm to qualify it, but I promise you the effect is night and day. Sure, a higher refresh rate monitor will give you a similar experience as long as you can run those frame rates, but not everyone can run those frame rates. Hell, even in Borderlands 4 with my RTX 5090, I struggled to crack 100 FPS natively with like decently high settings. And the advantage here is that this gives you almost the same effect that you get from DLSS frame gen, but it's entirely on the display side, and just like frame gen, it gets even better as the frame rate increases. I wish I had a high refresh rate OLED to side by side this with, but I uncapped the frame rates so we're around 280, 300 FPS, or hertz for that matter. I swear, it is as clear or clearer than my 480 Hz OLED. This is actually kind of insane. It is worth mentioning, however, that it isn't magic. It's not going to defy the laws of physics, even though it seems like it is. Your latency is still going to be based on your native frame rate or refresh rate. So technically speaking, you're not getting like this crazy competitive advantage in that regard, but you do get the advantage of smooth feel to your brain, you know? It definitely is an advantage, especially when you have higher frame rates. Like, man, the text clarity is actually insane. Even if I move this around like really fast, I can still totally read that capture. It's one of those things that it doesn't make sense really until you see it. I really hope at like Micro Center and Best Buy and whatnot, they have these displays set up so you can actually see what they look like, because man, this is making me rethink my purchasing decisions. And I already have the OLED. How is nobody talking about this thing? I don't understand. Now, if you've played with a ULMB 2 monitor, you might have noticed that the clarity effect wasn't as good around the edges of the display as it was in the center. It kind of had a sweet spot in the middle. That's because as the frame changes on your display, it doesn't all happen at the same time. Your display actually like scans new frames from top to bottom, just like how images used to load on dial-up internet. So the timing at the edges with the backlight flickering wasn't perfect. In fact, they actually had to overdrive the pixels on the edges of the display to not make it completely wonky. Pulsar, on the other hand, also eliminates this problem because instead of globally flashing the backlight like they used to, they're using a panel that has 10 vertical backlighting zones. So as the new frame scans down the display, they can also flash the backlight perfectly in time with it. In fact, just a little bit ahead of the image changing so that the backlight shuts off before the pixels change and you remove almost all of the ghosting. And they told me this is a big part of how they were even able to get variable refresh rate strobing to work without flicker, although apparently there's a ton of other secret sauce. And given the price point, they're not cheap displays. Oh God, I'm gonna get banned. No, stop. Ah, we got kicked. These new GSYNC Pulsar displays are starting at $599. That's for the AOC model, and this Asus is supposed to be MSRP around $650. You're getting dangerously close to entry-level OLED pricing. But again, to have that same motion clarity, let's say with a 360 Hz OLED, you'd need to render the game at 360 FPS instead of the effective motion clarity you'd get with just 90 Hz on this display. And there's other disadvantages to OLED too. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my OLED monitor, but while burn-in is a lot less of a concern today, they're still nowhere near as bulletproof as an LCD panel like this. And you're still definitely not getting anywhere near the SDR brightness of an LCD like this, nor the text clarity. OLED totally has its benefits for HDR gaming and black levels for movie watching, but if you're primarily an esports gamer, I'd be taking a serious look at these displays for your next monitor purchase. And that might be soon because they're actually available for purchase already. We'll have links down in the description to a couple of the different models, and let me know down in the comments what you think of these new displays. I wish we had a high-speed camera so we could really show you the difference. I'll link to some videos as well down in the description that have a much, much better look. They were able to look at it in the studio. But let me know down in the comments what you think of these monitors. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and have just a jolly good old day. And I know it's not on Linux. It's not my choice. This isn't my computer, okay? 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 Already cheating. God, what am I